Hi there, smart driver. Driving in the snow, especially when the temperature is near 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it is going to be extremely slippery, as they found out in the state of Indiana last weekend. We'll talk about that, talk about other skills, strategies, and abilities you need to stay safe in the winter time and out of the ditch. If we're talking about Indiana, all the places below the snow line that usually don't get snow. Kentucky usually doesn't get snow. Southern Ohio doesn't get snow. What other states are there? Oklahoma doesn't usually get snow, but every now and again they do. And when they do, the driving public loses their mind. And I talked about this some time ago about tires on vehicles. Tires are expensive, and people do not maintain their vehicles to the level that some of us would like to think that they do. And my question about this in terms of losing control in the wintertime when it snows in these southern provinces and those types of things would be going around and actually looking at the vehicles that are in the ditch and looking at the condition of the tires on the vehicle, because I look at tires in parking lots and take note of the tread, and tires aren't all the same. And a lot of people are not putting winter tires on their vehicles. I would say that the driving public, only about 25% of drivers and vehicles on the roadway actually are fitted with real winter tires. This is the reason that they're ending up in the ditch. Not to mention that they're also traveling too fast. And as you can see here in the image, most of them are driving in a cluster with the other people on the roadway. People ask me, how much should you reduce your speed in the wintertime when it's slippery conditions and it's snowing and those types of things. If you're going with the flow of traffic when conditions are bad in the wintertime, that's generally the speed that you should be driving on the roadways. They're going slow because they're concentrating, they're putting every bit of energy, all their driving skills into keeping safe when they're driving on ice and snow in the wintertime. It's most treacherous when the temperature is around freezing. 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. It's more slippery when the temperature is around freezing than it is when temperatures are sub-zero. Minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 12 degrees Celsius. And we talked about this, ice cubes, taking them out of the freezer. They're sticky when you first take them out because they're frozen, sub-zero temperatures, but if you leave them on the counter for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, they start to thaw. There's a layer of water on the outside of the ice cube and they become slippery and slick, and sometimes they'll go pa-choo across the counter and you have to go and pick it up off the floor and whatnot. That's the reason, because there's a layer of water on the outside of the ice. And it's the same idea in the wintertime when temperature is around freezing. The snow and ice is melting, thawing, and you have this layer of water on top of the ice and snow that makes the ice and snow slippery. Near freezing. So I got ahead of myself in terms of the presentation here, but another way to think about this for anybody who has skated or played hockey, done figure skating and those types of things, think of the Zamboni going out and flooding the ice hockey rink. Right after the Zamboni floods the ice is when skaters love being on the ice because it's super slippery. And there's a layer of water on top of the ice that is lubricating the ice and making it more slippery. And this is why in the wintertime, intersections are the most slippery, because the cars come up, they hit the brakes, the tires lock up and they slide a little bit, and it creates friction, which is the byproduct of friction is heat. And from that heat, the ice and snow will melt a little bit and you'll get that layer of water right on top of the ice and snow. This is why you need to be most careful when approaching intersections and braking, and you should start braking and slowing down back from the intersection. The proverbial black ice, although most of us as driving instructors have never seen black ice come out of a soda machine, but people claim that it exists, and it's simply ice on the roadways that you can't see. First and foremost, most of the time that you are going to encounter ice on the roadways that you cannot see is in the middle of the night when it's dark, or it's going to be the early hours of the morning. There was moisture the day before, either fog, rain, or whatnot, or there was melting of snow and ice on the roadways, and then overnight the temperature dropped, ice form on the roadways. And this is the other piece that happened to me, is I thought I was following another car when I was on the highway and I lost control of my vehicle, but evidently I was not following another car and there were not other vehicles in front of me. And because there was very little traffic on that roadway, it allowed the ice to form. Maintenance crews clean the main roads first. Know that in the wintertime. And most of the time, the examiners are not going to take you into the suburbs and whatnot if you're going for your driver's test in the wintertime. They're going to stick to the main roads because for whatever reason, driving examiners do not like pushing cars out of the ditch. Okay, if there is a lot of snow and ice, they're not going to take you into the suburbs where there is snow and ice and whatnot. Curves, corners, and turns, this is when you potentially could lose control of the vehicle. Anytime that the vehicle gets out of straight, anytime that it goes like this, that's when you're in danger of losing control of the vehicle. Keep it straight, and as long as you're keeping it straight, you're going to be okay. But going around curves, corners, and turns, you want to slow down before the curve, and then you want to power through the curve. I don't mean accelerating, I just mean you have power to the wheels, so the wheels are working to get traction as you're moving forward. Intersections are slippery, as I mentioned. Slow down back from the intersection and then creep up to the intersection where you actually want to get stopped. Main roads are cleared first. Back roads are going to be left until the end of the day, maybe even not until the end of the day. We had a huge dump of snow here some years ago here in Vernon, and I mean a lot of snow, like 3 feet of snow in a 48-hour period. Some of the roads here never got cleared. They just simply never ever cleared them because, as many of you know, most of the cities and municipalities have swapped out big snow clearing equipment for dump trucks with belly plows. Well, belly plows are fine when you get 4 or 6 inches of snow, but anything over that, belly plows won't do the work. Curves, corners, and turns, slow down on the straight, power through the curve, okay? And that may be slow. So you may be doing 10, 15 miles an hour around the corner, around the curve. So you do have to slow down, okay? And know that other people are going to do something goofy when they're driving, because there are many people on the roadways who have never learned how to do it. For whatever reason, they're in a car behind the wheel driving on ice and they lose control in an intersection. It happens. People do it. They're out there driving when they have no business being behind the wheel of the car. Fortunately, in the wintertime, when it is ice and snow and it is slippery and compromised traction, most of the time the goofy people know to stay home, but not always. Oversteering. Oversteering is when the back end of the car comes around, the ass end of the car. It's called oversteering because you've got way more steering than what you thought you were going to have. Oftentimes, oversteering is driving too fast for conditions of the roadway, and this is exactly what happened a few years ago when I lost control on ice. I had experienced oversteering, and just as soon as I went around the corner, I'm like, I'm going too fast. The thought went through my head, I am going too fast, and I could feel the back end of the buggy kind of lift up and shift, and I experienced oversteering, and I could not recover from that. Keep your speed down. Slow down if you suspect that there are slippery conditions and you're not in a hurry, right? Unfortunately, what happened at the time, I was in a hurry and running for the ferry. And it happens when you're braking and steering at the same time. And in the winter time, on slippery conditions, compromised traction, you have to have those two actions being separate. You brake first, get the vehicle slowed down, and then steer and go around the corner. And this happens oftentimes when you're steering. So you come up to the corner, you hit the brakes, and you start to steer the vehicle, and it continues to go straight. That is called understeering because you're not steering. Now, if you are losing traction, an advanced driving skill that you can use to regain traction is to try and do chop steering. If you're going around a corner, you can pull it down, pull the steering wheel down, release it back to straight, and then pull it down again. It is a technique adopted from rally car racing when they're racing on gravel and dirt roads. They'll go around the corner, they'll bring the steering wheel down, bring it back up to straight, allow the tires to spin and get traction, and then bring it down again. And that chop steering sometimes will allow you to regain traction and able to give you the ability to steer the vehicle on slippery conditions. Skid recovery, steer in the direction you go. And I always say this, and there are drivers from the 1950s who will come back to me and say, you need to steer in the direction of the skid. In the 35 years, 30 years, however long, it's been a very long time that I've been a driving instructor, I have never been able to figure out which way is the direction of the skid, whether it's the way that the front end of the vehicle is going or the back end of the vehicle is going. But Bill Cosby has a very old skit of losing control of its Volkswagen Beetle in rain, and trying to remember which way is the direction of the skid and which way he should be steering his vehicle. And ultimately he crashes into a tree and never figures out which way the skid is. But people will come back and say you need to steer in the direction of the skid, which never ever made sense to me, and I could never figure it out. So what we say is just steer the vehicle in the direction you want to go. People will say to me, oh, you got to steer in the direction of the skid. And I said, well, what if the direction of the skid is towards the ditch or off a cliff? Then you definitely don't want to steer in the direction of the skid. You want to steer in the direction that you want to go. So get out of the main tracks and don't give up. In addition to that, keep your seatbelt on. Your seatbelt not only protects you in the event of a crash, but also keeps you in the driver's seat. If you are not in the driver's seat, it is really tough to drive your vehicle in an emergency situation, especially if you get thrown and you are, in the footwell of the passenger side of the car, the passenger footwell. You're laying down. You can't drive the vehicle from there, okay? So wear your seatbelt to stay in the driver's seat. Interstate backups. These will happen. Okay, stay back. As I've told you in congestion traffic, for the smart drivers that are regular here on the live stream, always be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the road surface. Keep rolling. Hazard lights. Stay off the brakes. So if you come around a corner or you're on the interstate and you look up and you see a mass of vehicles up there, you need to slow down back, like half a kilometer, quarter of a mile back from where the vehicles are actually stopped. You need to get your hazard lights on, and you need to be watching the traffic coming up behind you. And if you see the vehicles come, you keep rolling forward, because it is less likely that you're going to get rear-ended by traffic when you're moving as opposed to being stopped. And I've been stopped recently a number of times on the highway where there's been crashes and traffic has been backed up and those types of things. I do not pull right up to the stop traffic. And the reason I stay back 2 or 3 vehicle lengths is because if I'm watching the traffic approaching from the rear, and if I see them coming and they're not stopping, then I will pull forward and I will start banging on the brake pedal to flash the brake lights behind me and get their attention. As well, putting on the 4-way flashers, the hazard lights, to indicate to them that there is something going on the roadway and tell them that traffic in front is actually stopped. You need to have this kind of situational awareness on highways and freeways to prevent yourself being rear-ended, and not only prevent yourself from being rear-ended, but also ending up in the pileup of cars that actually do crash on the roadway. If a crash is imminent, okay, reduce your speed as much as possible. Get on the brakes, try and slow down the vehicle. Aim for something soft, not a tree. Trees don't move, trust me, and they will do a lot of damage to your vehicle. A fence, a hedge, those types of things. All right, if you can just drive along the grass in the ditch, but you're stuck in the ditch, that's fine, okay? You can get pulled out of the ditch. Do not aim for something hard, another vehicle. If you have the choice between a sideswipe crash and a head-on crash, pick the sideswipe crash every time. Proactive winter driving. Pay attention. Fit your vehicle with winter tires, or at least have good quality all-season tires that are M&S rated or the mountain snowflake symbol. As I said, my professional hypothesis is that most of the vehicles that end up in the ditch in the wintertime are people that have very low ability and skill to drive in the wintertime, in addition to the fact that they do not have good quality tires on their vehicles. And as Jay was saying earlier, winter tires make all the difference. Yes, there's a cost associated with it. They are expensive. I will tell you that. Even for the buggy. And they're only 15-inch tires. They're $1,000. If you have a big 1500, Dodge Ram, it's going to be $2,000 for the tires on your vehicle. They're expensive. However, saying that, having winter tires is not an added expense. It simply prolongs the life of the tires on your vehicle. I think the all-season tires that I have to replace next year for the buggy have been on the buggy for like 6 years, but they're not on the vehicle for 3 or 4 months of the year. So know that in terms of buying winter tires for your vehicle, it is not an added expense. It will prolong the life of your all-season tires because they're not on your vehicle for 4 to 6 months of the year. Paul says trees always write off your vehicle. Yes, they will write off your vehicle because, even though we think that trees are nice and environmental and we love them, they do not move. They are rooted and they will do damage to your car. They will take a big bite out of your car. Epic always carry a 2 and a snow brush. On the other hand, ice scrapers always carry an emergency kit. Yes, and if you're, as Epic just said, if you're traveling outside of the city, definitely have a survival kit in your vehicle. I have one in my vehicle that just stays in there all the time, and it's got like a snow shovel, some traction mats, jumper cables. If the battery dies or it's too cold and the vehicle won't start, you can get a boost from somebody. Yes, if you're driving outside of the city, definitely have a survival kit in your car. And there's a video here on the channel as well about winter survival kits and what should go in a winter survival kit. If you were doing a lot of driving in the winter time, definitely stock your survival kit so that you can survive being stranded on the highway in the wintertime. We're driving through the mountains here at Christmas. We're going to Calgary and we're flying to Montreal. We will have full ski gear. So we'll have snow pants, jackets, those types of things, and other stuff in the vehicle, food and water and whatnot. So, and the other piece about it is remember, water freezes, so you want to have a candle and a pot to be able to melt ice and snow so that you have water while you're waiting. But, you know, it's not likely that you're going to be stranded for very long. We don't just get those big, crazy blizzards in the wintertime that last for 6 or 8 days. So it's not like you're going to be on the side of the road for 6 or 8 days. It's probably 24 or 36 hours that you end up in the ditch in the wintertime and have to survive in your vehicle. Now, the other piece about this is do not leave your vehicle if you do end up stranded on the side of the road, all right? Stay in your vehicle and wait for emergency crews to come along and help you and get you rescued. And the other piece about it is have a cell phone, have a charging cable. I mean, most of us do in this day and age in our vehicles, so that you can call for help, because if your phone's not charged, you can't call for help. Stay safe this winter. Keep your space. Good tires on your vehicle. All the rest of it, windshield wipe, good windshield washer fluid, winter washer fluid, and good windshield wipers on your vehicle. Stay safe out there. Keep your distance. Stay away from other traffic. Brake early. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.